101. It's now time for the Morning Watch. Stay tuned.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall, and of course, we here at Love 101 FM, we are the number one gospel station in Jamaica. And one moment, please, listeners, as we resolve a little issue here that I am currently experiencing. My apologies to you, listeners. And of course, a special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or of course, join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM Facebook Live and also YouTube Live in the main watch. Well, we have a welcomed, delayed date for the start of CXC examinations. And in the second watch, we look at an update on the Russia-Ukraine war. In our social media question, we ask, how has the delay in some CXC exams affected you as a parent, a teacher, and of course, as a student? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp your comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on in the program, but first, here's our quote.
All right, I code for this morning. Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. Albert Einstein. Good morning, Mr. Albert Einstein.
For this morning, I'll accept the name. The main watch will be back after this break. Stay with us.
Upgrade Mom's cell phone this Mother's Day with the all-new DL4 for only $16,650 plus tax. Get a free gift with every purchase or while stocks last. Be Mom's hero this Mother's Day. Visit a Digicel store near you or digiceljamaica.com. Digicel, made in Jamaica.
I'm advice I don't know Lali Shot and Tally. I have a message to everyone. Get vaccinated. Hey, tourism the main driver of the local economy. It provides us with jobs, save the country. So everybody in the industry, get the job and come follow me. It don't hurt, do the nerd. Link the nurse cause the vaccine work. Get vaccinated. This is a message from the Ministry of Tourism. Get vaccinated. Just get vaccinated. Vaccinated. You're deaf?
Love 101, the family station, is inviting mothers and daughters to participate in the Mother's Day Mother-Daughter Dress-Alike competition. Do that thing! Mothers and daughters are invited to take a photo dressed alike and send it in to 876-224-5414. The photographs will be posted on our Instagram page. Then listen on Mother's Day for a vibrant discussion on radio with Sarah Ann inside Sunday Showcase showcase where the winner of the Mother's Day Mother-Daughter Dress-Alike competition will be announced. It's the Love 101 FM's Mother's Day Mother-Daughter Dress-Alike competition. Hey daughters, plan that picture-taking experience with your mom. Strike a pose, there's nothing to it, and send your picture to 876-224-5414. Then listen on Mother's Day for a beautiful experience. It's all on the family station, Love 101.
Mama, your love gives me meaning and purpose.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the main watch, and of course, we are looking at the Russia-Ukraine war in this first watch, an update, if you will. Now, according to some news sources, there is relief among Jamaican students and, of course, parents and teachers that some CSEC and CAPE exams have been postponed. Now, while some exams have been taking place, others, to include SBAs, have been pushed back to May 23rd. And who are these students? Who are these parents? These teachers? And of course, do they welcome the delay? What is it that is bothering those who, well, put it this way, let us get the views of our guests. And of course, we do apologize. We're looking at the CXC exams in this first watch. We have Carol Thorpe, StreamYard. Are you with us, Carol Thorpe?
Good morning.
Student. Great. You are a student at St. Andrew High School for Girls, vice president of the SAHS, the St. Andrew High School for Girls, I assume, Debating Society. You're the president of the choir, and you are the president of Protect Our People. And this is a club garnered towards providing education surrounding human trafficking. Big problem, you know. Human trafficking is a worse nightmare than many people realize. And it also addresses sexual assault. And, well, I see you have self-defense here as well. Maybe you'll tell us a little bit more about that later on. We have on the telephone Albert Corcho, principal of the great Calabar High School, although I didn't go to that school. But Mr. Corcho, are you with us this morning?
I'm with you. Thank you for allowing me, and I say good morning to you and good morning to you, to your listeners.
A pleasure having you, Mr. Corcho. A pleasure having you. And of course, Madam Carol Thorpe. Now, jumping right into it, lady and gentlemen, because this matter is of grave concern to many people. People were deeply concerned about the timing and the date of these examinations, but alas, there's a little bit of a reprieve. Now, why was the delay required or desired? Starting with that question, I'm going to ask Mr. Corcho to comment first, and then we bring in the student. Mr. Corcho.
Thank you. I think we all know that, there have been, because of the pandemic, there have been so much learning loss. And so even initially when we started planning from September, we thought that it would have been a given that CXC would have come on board and partner with the school, not just in Jamaica, right across the Caribbean, because we all were suffering from the pandemic. So because of the learning loss, we were expecting that, yes,
Okay, Mr. Corcho, when you say suffering from the pandemic, can you break it down a little bit for us so people can understand more specifically? Don't assume we all know. More specifically, what made it challenging to start the exams on the usual date?
All right, so we were online for probably half of the school year. As you know, we came back. Most of the schools came back in January for face-to-face. Some schools came on after. I think by now we also know, and I think your listeners will appreciate the fact that the online space for Jamaicans and for schooling in Jamaica is really, we're not there yet. It's not working. And so, although we put the
I
mechanism in place,
see.
the technology was there, we weren't getting as much as we expected. And a number of, in our case, a number of our students, parents complained they never had the devices, there were internet connectivity. So, although school was happening, we knew that not a lot of learning was happening. And so, when the announcement was made late December that will resume in January, schools, stakeholders, the teachers, the parents were very happy because we realized that a lot of the students weren't doing as well. And so it was on that basis we were saying to ourselves that, listen, we are hoping that it happened the year before with CXC that we would have had some amount of extension and that will allow the students to make up some of the time. And so when the 3 weeks came, I
Uh,
thought I was a little disappointed. I thought we would have had more time, and probably the announcement would have probably come a little earlier so that the teachers could plan around it. But it's 3 weeks, and we are going to make the very best use of the 3 weeks, and so we think that most of our students would benefit from the extension of the 3 weeks.
but I'm gonna throw a spanner in the works here, Mr. Corcho, because if what we are seeing is well, put it this way. Let us, for example, say that we go back to not having face to face. And I deliberately framed it that way
Mhm.
because there could be a change in the circumstances of the country in relation to COVID. And we go back to a predominantly online situation. Are we going to go through this again next year, Mr. Corcho?
The reality is, as a country, we are not there yet. So we may have to go through it. The thing, though, is that we will not be as far as where we started a couple of years ago because there's a lot of learning, a lot of technology have been improved. I think with our teachers right across Jamaica, we have been better trained. Parents are more understanding. The students are more adaptive to what is happening online. So we're not where we started years ago. But if something should happen and we have to get back online, it will be a little better. And I think what is important to know is that it is a learning process. The longer we work, the better we get to understanding, you get better results at the end of the day.
Let us bring back in the student here. Carol Thorpe, how are you again?
I'm well. Thanks for asking. In this,
Now, Miss Thorpe,
mhm.
what is your reaction to all of this? You are the student and you are the one who is going through all of this.
um, to be fair, I am one of the luckier students who all the subjects that I do, my syllabi have been finished. They've been complete. So the delay in the commencing of these examinations is not something that I think we were anticipating at all because as Mr. Kershaw said, that when we realized that TXC was planning to go ahead with plans as usual, as if the pandemic was gone and we were not still facing COVID, it was very disheartening, especially to the grade 12 students who would have started in October and November for some schools because our results wouldn't have come out until in October, so school couldn't have started for us. So we lost basically 2 months of time to learn. So when we come back to school in October, November, and we're expected to be on the ball and to get everything rolling, it was extremely difficult. Now I know that there are some students and a lot of students, to be fair, who are very excited or very appreciative of this delay. However, I
Some students are appreciative of the delay, you say?
Yes, they are because their teachers would have now had more time to finish the syllabus. The syllabi they would have gotten the time to prepare for their exams more thoroughly because, in essence, exams should have commenced yesterday, which was May 2, and
Yes,
we
yes,
would have
yes.
still been learning up until the last week in April for some schools. Like my school's one of the few schools I know of that would have been giving their students study break. And our study break would have commenced on April 27th. April 27th to May 2 is not, a very big gap. Um, Awesome.
Carol Thorpe, only because
Yes,
we're upon a break. Hold that thought. Ladies and
no
gentlemen,
problem.
please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
In 2021, we were number one. If you're looking to earn more on your investments, invest in number one, Sigma Global Funds, the top performing funds in 2021. For US dollar and Jamaican dollar equity funds, we were number one. For US dollar and Jamaican dollar fixed income funds, we were number one. For US dollar and Jamaican dollar balanced funds, Sigma Global Funds was number one. Earn more on your investments. Invest in the number one funds in Jamaica, Sigma Global Funds from Sagicor Investments. Conditions apply.
Hello, Jamaica! Don't miss the virtual edition of the 18th Barbados Flying Gospel Awards on May 8th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Virtual performances from Michelle Sylvester and Denise Plummer from Trinidad and Tobago. Nominations by Kevin Downswell, Knute Neal, and Nadine Blair. $20 booking at flameawardsbb.com. Same day, $25. Win a prize trip to Barbados. Part proceeds in aid of charity. Support the One Caribbean movement, taking gospel to another level.
The Pesticides Control Authority, PCA, of the Ministry of Health has been onboarded to the Jamaica Single Window for Trade, JSWIFT. Effective April 11, 2022, the Pesticides Control Authority, PCA, has been facilitating online applications of all import permits for pesticides, herbicides, fumigants, and other related products. Traders and their agents will now be able to make online application to obtain both pre- and approved permits, and also make payment for the PCA import cess. Benefits include a single application for multiple items within the same shipment, faster processing, increased convenience, and ease of doing business. The PCA import permit service now on JSWIFT.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Thanks for staying with us. We are in the first watch and we're looking at a welcomed delayed date for the start of CXC exams. And our guests are none other than Mr. Albert Corcho, principal of the Calabar High School. And we have also Carol Thorpe, student, St. Andrew High School for Girls and vice president of that school's debating society, president of the choir, and president of another association known as Protect Our People. Ms. Thorpe, before the break, you were, indicating to us the gratitude that a lot of students have for the delayed date for the start of exams. Please continue, Ms. Thorpe, before we bring back in Mr. Corcho.
Well, I think yes, there are persons who are very grateful for this delay. I don't count myself in that number, to be honest. However, for the persons who are disappointed, they're not disappointed because of the fact that it's been delayed. We didn't get a lot of notice to say that it would have been delayed, not even an inkling to say, okay, we might be delaying the exams. It was just, oh, hey guys, this is what we're doing now. So have fun. So that was cute. But also, it was the fact that a lot of the students and the teachers have been going on 100 since whenever we started back. And the early commenting of the exams would have given us more time to not only enjoy ourselves but get back in the mind frame for school, be able to relax. A lot of us are running on burnout. Those of us who do, a million extracurricular activities, those are the persons who are doing the science subjects and all the other subjects that require a headache load of information to absorb before their exams. They were literally on their last breath, and they're telling them that they now have 3 more weeks of preparation to do, and then they have to still go through the entire process of exams. A lot of the students are running around on burnout, and it's
I see.
ridiculous how they are. And I honestly think that if the organization was planning on doing such a massive jump to say, okay, we're going to give you the 3 weeks, we're going to give you the topics or whatever leniency you're going to allow, just at least give us the decency and give us the respect, the courtesy of letting us know, not like 4 days before the exam is supposed to begin. Like, that would have
Interesting you
been
said that, Miss Thorpe. Interesting you
perfect.
said that. Let's bring back in Mr. Corcho. Mr. Corcho, assist us here. I My information is that the information here at Love 101 FM is that not every single subject is delayed in terms of the date. What is the information you have as principal? For example, I am advised that visual arts was not delayed. And from your angle, Mr. Corcho, how do you see the students reacting to or coping with the changes? First of all, enlighten us. Were all subjects delayed?
No, so not all subjects are delayed. There are subjects, as a matter of fact, and I got my young lady there from St. Andrew High, she mentioned it, that there were actually, students were there already in terms of the preparation. Subjects like visual art, there's no delay, and those, as a matter of fact, those have probably started already because of how that program is set up. Things like the orals, those went probably 2 or 3 weeks, both Spanish and French.
You mean for the languages?
Pardon me?
You mean for the languages like Spanish?
Spanish, right? Spanish and French, those orals, yes, those orals went already. I think all schools have done that. Okay. Things like physical education and sports, those have started already. And so you are correct that there is indeed some of the subjects will not have benefited from the extension. I want to pick up something though on young lady from St. Andrew mentioned. The fact that CXC, which is a governing body, and I would think that they would have had strategic planning. They would have had their people looking to see what is happening in terms of the pandemic, and for them to come.
I'm not making an excuse for CXC, Mr. Corcher, but it would be strategic planning under very difficult circumstances in light of what you just said.
Yeah, but the objective of CXC is have our students sit the exams. The objective of CXC is not for students to fail the exam. And when there's a pandemic, I would have thought that you would have made this pronouncement about the extension not 4 days before. That really give schools nothing. For me, though, one thing I want to add to that is that some students will benefit from it, but when you look at a situation from a psychological point of view, the fact that, and I remember when I was a student, the fact that you get an extension, it will allow you a little more wiggle room to prepare yourself for those exams. So what we're hoping, especially at Calabar, and our young men tend to operate a little different from the young ladies. I mean, know what happens there, but we're really hoping that the 3 weeks, they would see it as a means of, okay, good, yes, we have got a little reprieve. Let us make sure that we utilize the time properly. But from a psychological point of view, it will go down well that they get a little breather before the exams start.
From your experience, Mr. Corcho, because I'm aware that you have also taught in a co-ed school. So you said the women, or the ladies rather, the females, they would have reacted a bit differently from the males in relation to the extension. You want to develop on that?
Sure. I think what we know at school is that the young ladies tend to mature a little faster than the young men. We tend to catch up later in the year. And so listening to the young lady from St. John's, you get they tend to be organized. The labs are in very focused early. What we find is that especially with the boys, they tend to be late bloomers. And so what you find is that 2 or 3 months before the SBAs are due, a month before the labs are due, you find them, going around and trying to make sure. So, we have that disparity in terms of the male and female. But the reality is that, as we start, that the extension that is given, one, it will benefit from students, definitely. And I think that if we had gotten this a little earlier, from the teaching perspective, we would have restructured ourselves a little more, that the student would benefit more at the end of the day.
Why I say that, Mr. Corcho, is because I know you will know why I know that you taught at a co-ed school. I went to Campion, and I don't remember the boys having any disadvantage from the ladies in relation to preparation for any exam. In fact, this nonsense about young men having a challenge versus females, well, let me not call it nonsense. Maybe that's just my word. This notion that males have a challenge versus women in learning in school is something I learned about after I left high school. That was the first time I heard about it, but I digress. Mr. Corcho,
Science is there that as male, we tend to be a little more in terms of pushing it close to the deadline. It's right across the board. I mean, in
I'm
what we find also, and I said I have had the
I'm
team
just saying,
structure
I'm just
both.
saying that wasn't my experience at high school. The women and the men were toe to toe, right up, and achieving equally. I didn't know about that disparity until I left school. Do you think students are mentally ready now, Mr. Corcho, in light of the delay? And do you do you see, for instance, if this were to be repeated next year, what would this experience have taught you?
All right, so I think the students are ready. We as teachers we would have been preparing them, for the exams. We had the deadline for the start, the 2nd of May, and so we have been preparing them. But they are prepared 100%. As I said earlier, a lot of them still, because of the pandemic, weren't where they are. So yes, they're ready. They have to be ready. The exams, some of the exams have started. In terms of the learning experience, it's something like this should happen again. And I think as administrators, we are going to be, when it comes on to planning come July, August, to make sure that we put in place measures so that at the when by the time April comes around, start of May, then would have completed the syllabus. What we did this year at Calabar, I think most schools have done it. We brought in the boys in terms of maths and for a week, and we restructure a timetable, to make sure that they had the time. And so yes, they're ready. I don't think I think with the delay will help some of them. My colleague from St. Andrew, I just mentioned that, it's what it is. People are prepared, and now people are ready to do battle for the 2nd of May, and the 3 weeks will only work well for some of the students. Despite what's going to happen, I can say it here now for you, sir, that we will get excellent exam results this year despite the pandemic. The students this year who are doing the exams, they have gone through a lot. And what we're seeing is that they are ready to take on both the CSEC and CAPE. And we're expecting again that the exam results will be very good despite the pandemic that this set of students went through.
And we do look forward to excellent results indeed, Mr. Corcho, from not only your school, but from all the relevant schools. And Miss Thorpe, Madam,
Yes.
yes. Now, you have heard a lot of what Mr. Corcho said. Any comments about how this experience can inform students next time if something like this were to occur? And of course, your final comments. And I would like you to squeeze in something about this club, Protect Our People, of which you are very much involved. Um, Go ahead, Miss Thorpe.
Well, I think, to be, as Mr. Korsha said, it's gonna benefit some students. It's not gonna benefit some students. I think also the other impact that we're looking at is how it's affecting students who were not planning on returning to grade 13, or students who would have been going on to university, either it be, the University of the West Indies, UTech. There's students who have already received acceptances to go abroad, and this does kind of interfere with their plans. So honestly, I just hope that at the end of this experience, which has, I'm sure, traumatized a lot of the students, it has allowed them to see that they're stronger in ways that they would have never expected.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
like they have the ability to persevere, and they have the determination to succeed. I think that is something that a lot of the students would have found out about themselves over the past 2 years, and it would have also allowed them to find their niches, find the best ways for them to manage themselves under stress and under great pressure.
I'm glad you
Protect
mentioned, only because of time, I'm glad you mentioned the whole matter of university because students tend to need their grades in time to matriculate.
Yes, we do.
Yes, yes, that the timeline is extremely important. Protect our people. Self-defense, human trafficking in a second. What is that about?
Okay, so really quickly, Protect Our People is a club that is sponsored by Pursuit International, which is a Jamaican organization started by Miss Stacey Ann Smith, who's currently the Dean of Discipline at Immaculate Conception High School. Her program basically, she works with victims of sexual assault and human trafficking, and
I
allow them to
see.
be reintegrated into society. And our
Sounds
PA
like a
does
topic
that
we
at a
probably
super
want
rate.
to interview you on in the future, Miss Thorpe, but alas, we are totally out of time. I want to thank Albert Corcho as well as Carol Thorpe for being our guests
It
in
was
this
a
first
pleasure. Thanks for
watch.
having
It,
me.
it was an absolute pleasure having you both. Good seeing you
Thank
again,
you.
Mr. Corcho, although virtually. Stay with us, listeners. We'll be right back on the morning watch.
It's Love 101 FM, the family station. Apply today for a DBJ Recovery line of credit or Go Digital Loan to help you find a way. The time by JN Bank Small Business Loans. It is now 7:31. You're tuned to Love 101. We'll be right back after these messages.
Calling all singers, choir members, and vocal coaches. Destiny Entertainment Agency is inviting you to Soul, a 1 hour online vocal training clinic with world-renowned Elsa Harris at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Elsa was a founding member of the renowned Jesse Dixon Singers when she was just 23.
Register online at destinyentertainment.com. The entire program costs a mere $25 US. Come, get your voice appraised and learn to sing high like Yolanda Adams and Mariah Carey. Elsa Harris is one of the best. Don't miss Soul to Soul.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
They're full of life. You're full of love. They're carefree. You care more. That's why we created Child Protector, a critical illness insurance plan from Sagicor Life. It provides coverage for your child in the event of 15 critical illnesses, hospitalization benefits, life insurance, and investment benefits. So make sure your child can live life to the fullest. Apply for Sagicor Child Protector today.
Welcome back to the morning watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in the printed version of the Gleaner a very sad story here. 20-year-old mom found dead. Unharmed infant believed to have not eaten for days. That story by Janet Silvero. We also have on the front page of the Gleaner, among many other stories, a news brief. Not all cop cars have toll exemption. That one very interesting in light of a very unfortunate incident in the last few days that many Jamaicans may recall. We have here in the Jamaica Observer, among the many stories, students have mixed views on lockout for grooming. Students have mixed views on lockout for grooming. And let's turn to another story here. Quite a number of stories on the front page of the Daily Observer. Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE, forges partnership with Ghana. That should be interesting. Those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers today. Of course, coming up next, we'll read for you some feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is how has the delay in the CXC exams affected you as a parent, teacher, or student. If you haven't done so, leave a comment on our Facebook or YouTube, Love One FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp your comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
He knows my name.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876 220 6474. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of global crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church.
This is a reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
He knows my name. This one is for my mommy.
Calling all boys. Whether or not you know it, you know how you feel about your mom. Now, put pen to paper for it has begun. Yes, folks, write a short, sweet, and spicy poem that's to the point but filled with heart, saying just how much you love and appreciate mom. No less than 4 lines and no more than 8 lines. And then listen on Friday, May 6th, during a live with Sarah and the Chirpy One, and call in and share when you hear a rhyme in time for this mom of mine. Sweet. And it's all here on the family station, Love 101.
I feel your love, mommy.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We move right into the second watch. Now, Russia and Ukraine. When it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war, some say it started actually several years ago, as far back as 2014. However, on February 24th this year, Russia launched an invasion of Ukraine, for those who may not recall the date. And every day since then, there have been various stories, tragic stories being told. And it is said that some of the stories are factual, some are not factual. Well, we wait to see which ones are in fact factual, the truth. What is happening currently, however, is what we really want to nail down, because as it continues, one gets the sense that it's not getting any better, but getting worse. We have online today Reverend Everald Edwards, International Affairs commentator, pastor, Church of the Open Bible, Twickenham Park, Spanish Town. We also have Ambassador Curtis Ward. Now, Ambassador Curtis Ward is a retired diplomat, and I don't want to just leave it there, because this gentleman is highly credentialed, highly experienced. He has had vast experience at the United Nations level. For instance, just a brief look at his bio says so much, to include the work he has done in relation to the United Nations Security Council. Gentlemen, good morning. Good morning,
Good morning,
Ambassador Ward.
Steffi. Good morning, Ambassador Ward.
And of course, good morning, Reverend.
Good morning. Good morning.
Now, I'm going to start with you, Ambassador Ward, if you would give us a reminder of the genesis of this conflict, and can you, as best as possible, point us to where you believe the matter is currently headed. Ambassador Ward?
Well, it is very difficult to pinpoint a particular time and space where this conflict began, because it has been a policy expounded by Russian President Vladimir Putin that it was an error for the Soviet Union, the original Soviet Union, when it broke up, for Russia to allow the former Soviet states to become independent countries. And one of Putin's objectives, or his aspirations, I should say, was to rebuild the old empire. But as time went
Can
by,
you stick a pin there? Can you stick a pin there, Ambassador Ward? You mean the
Sure.
old USSR, the Soviet Union? That's what you mean when you say empire?
well, maybe in the old Russian Empire, basically.
Okay, so you're taking us back to the time of the czars of Russia?
Well, not that far, but coming out of the breakup of the Soviet Union, there are a number of countries that became independent on the border with Russia. Now, even within the old Soviet Union, Russia was the dominant figure. There's no question about that. It was a dominant country. But places like Ukraine, the Balkan states, Bulgaria, Romania, Poland, all of these were in the Soviet sphere of influence. Now, under the United Nations Charter, once a country becomes independent, regardless of what preceded independence, their sovereign integrity, their sovereignty and territorial integrity are protected under international law. Take, for instance,
You know, I'm glad you mentioned the matter of sovereignty, Ambassador Ward. Can you help us to walk through what some might think is a minefield, but for you, I'm sure it's not. I've heard it being mentioned in media sources that Ukraine has never declared itself to be a sovereign state. Can you comment on that, Ambassador Ward? It sounded strange to me.
That's nonsense. Whoever said that, that's nonsense. Ukraine
I
became
just thought I'd
independent.
raise it because you mentioned sovereignty. Go ahead, Ambassador.
Ukraine became independent over 30 years ago and became a sovereign, independent member state of the United Nations.
Thank you for that, Ambassador.
You do not become a member of the United Nations unless your sovereignty is recognized internationally.
Okay.
Jamaica did not declare independence, you know. Independence was written in the Parliament of Britain. But
yes, I'm well aware of that, Ambassador.
But we understood that we were independent. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah.
Although some people are arguing to the contrary these days. But any country, there are 193 sovereign states that are members of the United Nations. Remember when the UN was formed, colonialism still existed around the world. Former colonies became independent states one way or the other, through peaceful means, some through conflict situation, but they became independent. The people decide, not an outside force. And under the charter, the trusteeship council was established to help colonies become independent, because declaration of the charter is every people have the right to self-determination.
Hold that thought, Ambassador Ward, only because we're almost upon a break. I want to bring in Reverend Edwards before we head to that break. Reverend Edwards, your comments so far in relation to what's going on right now in Russia and Ukraine.
I hear, good morning, everyone. I hear the talk of our request for an update as to where we have reached in the war. I'm not too sure if we are fully understanding of what the Russian objective is. They have decided that they want to not go after all of Ukraine as initially we thought. They're concentrating on a particular region nearest to their border. and the fighting has been bitter. But what is of interest to me is how Israel is being brought into this from the Russian point of view. And this argument about
Reverend Edwards, I'm glad you went there, but hold the thought because we are already upon a break. Listeners, please stay with us. Very interesting. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
50 and over, get the best health plan as well as fabulous discounts. Visit ccrponline.org today or call 469-1944 and live life to the fullest. The time by CCRP is...
It is now 7:45, approaching 7:46 right here on the Family Station, Love 101. Of course, we'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch. This is Love 101, the Family Station.
Tell me where you get the money transfer. Alliance. Where you get the money transfer. Alliance. Where you get the money transfer. Money move like a bird, like a plane, it's a blur. Money quick, money fast, money reach in a flash. This your agent no run out of cash. Pay the rent, pay the bills or buy the grocery. Make a call for the cash and pay the school fee.
Money when and where you need it. Alliance MoneyGram Money Transfer. Convenient locations island-wide. A member of the Sagicor Group.
Tell me where you get the money transfer.
Alliance. Upgrade mom's cell phone this Mother's Day with the all-new DL4 for only $16,650 plus tax. Get a free gift with every purchase or while stocks last. Be mom's hero this Mother's Day. Visit a Digicel store near you or digiceljamaica.com. Digicel, made in Jamaica.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch. And in this second watch, we are looking at the matter of getting an update on the Russia-Ukraine war. Our guests are retired ambassador, retired diplomat, Curtis Ward, as well as Reverend Everell Edwards. And Reverend Everell Edwards is of the Church of the Open Bible. Now, Reverend Edwards, before the break, you touched on something very interesting in relation to Israel, and that typically makes a lot of persons in church circles listen a little bit more keenly. But before you go there, Reverend Edwards, I wanted to take a quick look at one or two headlines that I have found, what I found between yesterday and today. We have here a headline: Al Jazeera, U.S. says Putin to annex Luhansk, Donetsk. Russia-Ukraine war news. We have another headline here from Al Jazeera. Let me turn to it. Among the Russia-Ukraine latest updates, deadly Russian strikes hit Odessa. And what is concerning about these stories is that it doesn't seem to be pointing to a de-escalation. It seems to be pointing to an escalation. And one of these stories is dated the 2nd of May, and one of the other was dated, I want to give the exact date, the 22nd of April. So it doesn't seem to be de-escalating.
Not at all, but I think we have pretty much enough to realize Mr. Putin and the Russians' game plan. Obviously,
Reverend Edwards, are you still with us?
I am, yes. Hello? With you. Hello?
Reverend Edwards?
Yeah, man, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. Why did you bring Israel into the conversation?
Because I believe Israel is going to figure prominently. Now, let's back up a little bit. The business of World War III, which a lot of people have been talking about, seemed far-fetched as many as 6 weeks ago. as the direct outcome of this Ukraine-Russia conflict. Let's face it. In those who take the biblical worldview understand that Israel is going to figure prominently in global politics and machinations not too long from now. It would have been difficult to see how Ukraine and Russia could impact Israel. Israel took the approach that it wanted to be a mediator, arbiter, in trying to bring resolution to this. It is obviously not going according to their game plan. And they have to pay attention to the fact that Russia is a driver of events and how things are run in Syria, next door to them. And our enemy.
Let me ask you this quickly, Reverend Edwards, only because of time. You
Yes.
see Russia as an enemy of Israel? I'm asking.
They are doing their best to both of them to get along. But there is always the tension because in Middle Eastern affairs, Russia's stance somehow always causes it to end up as being the supplier of arms to
I
Israel's
see.
enemies.
I'm not speculating here, but because I know the USA generally is regarded as a friend of Israel, and it has been said by some that this is somewhat of a proxy war. People will have different views on that, but some people are of the view that the US and NATO are sort of, as it were, using, Ukraine as a proxy to fight a war against Russia. So do you perceive that to sort of get back at the West, to sort of get back at the US, Russia might try to in some way undermine Israel? I'm just putting that out there to see how you respond.
I don't know that. I don't know that. I think the source of this latest brouhaha is a position taken by the Russian foreign minister, saying that to think of denazification coming out of a country governed by a Jew is unfounded. Harps back to this argument about Hitler being descendant of Jews and that anti-Semites are normally the strongest advocates of anti-Semitism are normally Jews themselves. It's some amount of deflection. The real struggle that we are seeing is that Russia is clear as to what it wants in terms of its own security. So going after all of Ukraine is bad PR. Our strategic objective is to make them as weak and dependent as possible on Russia. So you go after their ports, you go after the area that is sensitive and would provide a buffer to you. That's why
Which is why the striking of Odessa is of concern. I want to bring back in Ambassador Ward. Ambassador Ward, the Reverend and I were looking at this matter from I don't want to say prophetic perspective. I don't pretend to be any, let me leave it there. But Ambassador Ward, the prospect of nuclear the use of nuclear weapons is of concern to many persons. And do you also believe, sir, that if tensions escalate any further, that the US would in fact become involved in the war? Ambassador Ward, any comments there, sir? Without necessarily speculating.
Well, I want to answer your question, but I must say this first. The role that Israel plays is a very complex one.
Okay.
And you don't have enough time on this program to go into the depths of the role that Israel plays, because if you go back to when most of the international community was going against South African apartheid, Israel was still doing business with apartheid South Africa. Israel is occupying Palestinian territory. Okay? That's a huge issue in violation of international law, United Nations Security Council resolutions, you name it. Many of the people in Ukraine who have died in this war may have been saved, and I said may, but Israel objected to the Iron Dome being given to Ukraine to protect them from aerial attack. Why they were able to do this? The Iron Dome was jointly developed by Israel and the United States, and there is an understanding between the two countries that both of them have to agree if the Iron Dome is to be deployed in a third country. So I don't want to talk about Israel right now, okay? I don't want to get into the biblical image of what Israel is or what is expected. You asked a question about the threat of nuclear war. Well, quite frankly, I don't believe, and maybe it is because I hope that civilization will last a little longer, I don't believe that Putin would resort to the use of
challenge
of nuclear weapons. Hold on.
Yes, sir.
There is an objective. There is a possibility.
Yes.
That he may interject or introduce tactical short-range nuclear weapons, but that would be a grave mistake because Russia would be destroyed. But so may be lots of Europe and parts of the United States. But let me say this. Russia, there was an earlier question about what are Putin's intentions and do we know what they are? Putin's intentions keep changing depending on how the war has been going for Russia.
You are saying that his intentions keep changing. I see.
Yeah, one of the things that he hopes to achieve is that he will have a link from Donbass, a land link, straight to the Black Sea, where Crimea, from Donbass to Crimea. That's why Mariupol has featured so greatly in the last few weeks. But he will not be able to hold, even if he wins a battle, he cannot hold the territory. And he has to keep adjusting. And with more arms, more artillery, the type of weapons that can do the land war with Putin, the more those are supplied to Ukraine, is the lesser likelihood of any form of success by Russia. So
do you
again,
think it's possible that the USA would enter the war, Ambassador, or you think that's unlikely?
I don't believe that there is any intention of the US entering the war, but one cannot predict from one day to the next in a conflict situation. It is people who try to predict these things are doing so based on their own opinion, not on facts. Okay.
Well, that's why we asked you, Ambassador, as a highly trained and highly experienced.
I don't believe the US intends to do so. The Ukrainians are great fighters. They have proven to be far greater fighters than Russia. And listen, dependency on Russia economically is unrealistic. Russia is a weaker country than Ukraine is economically on a per capita basis.
Very interesting.
Russia is not a rich country. Russia is a poor country. And Russia's this war with Ukraine has shown that Russia's arms are antiquated and are useless against NATO-supplied arms. So Putin has bitten off a whole lot more than he can chew.
But only because of time, I think we are totally out of time. I want to thank Ambassador Ward and Pastor Edwards for being with us in this the second watch of of our program today. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. We're totally out of time. I want to thank you for your time.
You're most welcome. And like I said, you don't have enough time on this program to really deal with these issues.
We need to look at the Israel connection that you raised, Ambassador.
They're
Thank you,
all
listeners,
very
for being
complex.
join us again tomorrow with other topical and controversial issues. And of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to us on the family station. Of course, join us on Facebook and YouTube. And of course, we are the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marsh, and hanging back to Love in the Morning with Roshane Douglas.
Thank you, Stokeley. Have a great day now, my brother.
You too, sir. You too. You too.
It's Love 101 FM, the family station. Trust you are doing well. If you've just joined us, welcome. Stay tuned.